Our show is going to be on year-end immigration update for 2025. This is something that I've been looking forward to talking about. I feel like it's such an important topic, and let's shed some light on it today. Today we have Lynn Alazem with us. She is the founder of Envoy Immigration Law Group, and welcome.
Thank you so much.
This is the first time I'm having the show with you, so I'm really excited.
Yes. Second time being on the show.
Yes.
And I'm so happy to be back. But yes, so nice to meet you and be with you today.
Yes, thank you so much. So shall we get started?
Let's do it.
Okay. So we're gonna. The first question I have for you is, what's your big picture take on the climate right now?
Okay. So this is the golden question.
Yes,
right?
dun dun dun.
It is. And we were kind of talking about this a little bit earlier. You know, we as practitioners, I think collectively we try to be positive.
Yes.
To the communities, to our clients and whatnot, but it's a tough climate right now.
Yes, absolutely.
It's undeniable, right? We can't deny that at all. It's very restrictive, right? So a lot of federal policies we're seeing day by day that are kind of issuing very restrictive policies towards individuals, immigrants, and so it's been very difficult, I think, for a number of individuals and communities and employers.
Yeah.
So tough to say the least, absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So how should individuals approach these headlines without panicking?
Yeah. So first and foremost, panicking never helps in any situation, right? So the first question I like to tell individuals is, let's pause and kind of think, does it apply to you, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of rhetoric out there, right? A lot of misinformation.
Yes.
That I have to just highlight on this, because I can't tell you the number of people that will kind of they'll be on Reddit and they'll read someone's experience, or they'll be on a blog or
social media.
Or social media.
Guilty.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. And the spread of information, it's great.
Yeah.
It's super useful.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of people who are not really authorized to speak on the topic, that are giving information to people and putting them into this frenzy, right?
Yeah.
So it's so much misinformation. So the first question I ask people is, let's see if it even applies to you, right?
Yeah.
Let's understand what the policy is, when did it take effect? And a lot of times, the time period that it takes effect, right? People may have had their statuses from 10 years ago.
Yes.
And they're like, oh no, this is going to affect me. It doesn't. Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't apply. So what's controlling, right? That's kind of number one. Another piece of advice is, you have power still. There are still mechanisms in place, right? There are still safeguards, checks to every agency, every administration, that are still utilized today, actively utilized.
Yeah.
So, don't panic. See, does it control, does it, apply to you? And then what mechanisms can we take, to help or avoid or, resolve? So, yeah.
I think the first thing, once we hear something or a family member talking about it, your first reaction is to panic. And you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Right.
Like you said, don't panic.
Right.
Figure it out.
Right.
Ask your lawyer.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, it may apply to you. In the world of immigration, we talk about statuses, right? So what is your status? Is it permanent? Are you an immigrant? Are you a non-immigrant?
Yeah.
There's a lot of legalese, a lot of terminology,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes, you might be in one status, but you can possibly change your status, right? So there are mechanisms that you can do that can kind of avoid whatever pitfall is there. So yes, absolutely.
And you still have rights, regardless of your immigration status.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So remember that. I think that's important.
Yes, knowing your rights is so fundamental right now. Depending on the setting, one topic I think we're going to touch upon is enforcement. We're seeing a lot of immigration enforcement across the U.S.
Yeah.
And so, we're trying to tell individuals, know what applies to you as far as your rights. So, number one, they need warrants, right? Judicial warrants. We're talking about ICE agents. The Constitution still applies, right? That's still a living document that still applies. If ICE comes to your business or they come to your home, right? They have to have a judicial warrant to enter the premises. There are certain places they cannot enter. And so people might, they see an ICE agent and then they panic, right? And they think, oh, that's it, I have to comply. No, there are rules, there are constitutional orders in place that still applies to them. So definitely know your rights.
So if they show up to your house, for example, do they have to show you some kind of paper that?
Yes.
And how do you know this is a valid document?
Right. So, well, they have to also show identification.
Correct.
And that's kind of been an issue.
Yes.
They are framing it as a security matter for themselves, but they still need to identify themselves, right, as law enforcers.
Yes.
And so that's number one.
Okay.
Number two, yes, there has to be a warrant to enter your home, right, to search your home.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a family member or an individual or a friend, et cetera. They're trying to enter your home. You're the owner, and you don't see any kind of official judicial warrant. They cannot enter, and you can refuse, right? You can say no, right? You cannot enter my home. I do not give you permission, and that's it, right? Yeah. We are seeing that they are sometimes showing them other types of paperwork, right? Like immigration-related paperwork. Maybe not even pertaining to whoever they're looking for.
Correct.
So take the time to look at it. You have that right. Look at what they're giving you, verify their identity, and then act upon that.
Okay. So you do open the door and let them give you the paperwork.
You can communicate with them, speak to them. Of course, comply, right?
Right, of course.
Comply with the law enforcement officers. But know your rights, right? Know that if it's not a document that looks valid, if on its face it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't look like a clear, this so-and-so has the authority to search so-and-so property at this address, then no, they cannot enter the property or the premises.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So what's one thing you want people to keep in mind today as we talk through these topics?
Yeah, so kind of back to that point, right? So headers are loud, right?
Yeah.
Headers are very loud. The news sometimes, will frame a topic a certain way, but the law is louder, right? Yes. So just because, one news outlet might be saying something a certain way or maybe causing a frenzy, right? The law still applies. Yeah. That hasn't changed, right? Certain mechanisms are still in place.
Correct.
So I would say absolutely keep that in mind. And then be proactive, right?
Yeah.
Be proactive, know what's going on, know the laws and know the environment that you're in. So,
yeah, that is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about travel ban.
Yes. Okay.
I think that's one topic that, especially right now during the holidays, people are traveling, and of course, those that actually want to travel are unable to because they're afraid. So, for listeners just hearing about this, what is this travel ban, and what does it do?
Okay. So the title I think is misleading.
Yes.
And so a lot of people think like there's a definite travel ban for everybody.
Yes.
The travel ban is essentially, so I think it's helpful to go back in time a little bit.
Yes.
So there was an incident that happened in November 2025 against 2 National Guard members in Washington, D.C. There was an attack from an immigrant against these National Guard members.
Yes.
So as response to that, there was a proclamation, an order by President Trump that was issued that is really unprecedented and really critical that we talk about it. Essentially, there are 19 countries, as of today, we're hearing that they are going to expand it to possibly 30 plus countries where there's a total ban. Immigrant and non-immigrant applications. And what I mean by that, I think it's helpful to explain that. Yes. Sometimes I forget that I'm, in my legal world. So immigrant applications are essentially those that are here for permanent reasons. So green card applications, consular processing for permanent matters.
Correct.
Non-immigrant are temporary visas. So entry into the U.S. for some kind of temporary Exactly. Visitor visa, J1, medical, employment, things of that nature, humanitarian. So those are the differences, right? So this travel ban, so it first came out in June. I should say that. June 2025 was kind of the first part of it.
Okay.
But that applied to State Department. And what that means is that people outside of the U.S.
Okay.
So these 19 countries were listed then. They, from people trying to enter in consular process, it was stopped.
Okay.
So this new order on December 2nd, 2025, is for people that are here in the U.S. So anybody that holds nationality from those countries, the 19 of them, are banned on hold, essentially.
On hold. Okay.
On hold. And so this is the travel ban that they're talking about right
So
now.
what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so number one, applications are paused.
Okay.
So if you have a nationality from those countries, there's a partial ban for 12 of them, and then a full ban on 12 of them, and a partial ban on the others.
Okay.
But essentially, it's the same.
Yeah.
So they're all on hold.
Okay.
And so USCIS, which is the agency, the government agency that's in charge of adjudicating these applications, is putting all of their applications on hold, including naturalization.
Oh.
So for us in the legal community, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because these are people who were green card holders
Right.
For so many years,
Yeah.
have been residing in the U.S. for so long, and now they're coming to naturalize, become U.S. citizens, and their applications are on hold. Their interviews are being canceled. It's pretty crazy. So that means that all applications are on hold right now. What we're being told and mind you, there's a memorandum that was issued 2 days ago. Yeah. It's maybe 2 or 3 pages. So we don't have a lot of information right now. We're waiting.
Yeah.
But we're under the impression that within 90 days, there will be a list of immigrants, individuals who are going to be possibly re-interviewed, or their applications are going to be reassessed for security reasons. So right now, everything is on hold, to answer your question.
Okay. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. What did the government announce this time around? Just the basics.
Yeah. So kind of what we were talking about a minute ago. So on June 4th, 2025,
Yes.
The first order came out. That was the
Correct.
first travel ban, right? That pertained, 19 countries, partial and full ban, from State Department, CBP, no entry, essentially.
Okay.
Except there were some exceptions for immediate relatives,
Okay.
who are filing family-based applications. So, for example, an individual is married to a U.S. citizen. This was in June. And then they filed a marriage-based petition for them, and they're seeking to bring them into the U.S. They had an exception for them.
Okay.
In June 2025.
Okay.
As of December 2nd,
Yeah.
2025, after this incident had taken place, now it's switched. So the adjudicative agency of USCIS is now pausing all applications. So that's kind of the timeline, and it took effect immediately. So so all applications are paused right now.
And in these 19 countries.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And again, we are hearing that they are going to expand that list. As of today, from what I know, we haven't heard which countries yet.
Okay.
But it's looking like 30 plus countries.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's pretty unprecedented.
That's insane.
Yeah. And we're trying to tell people, look, it's not an absolute denial.
Correct.
So the good news, right, is it's a pause. And the stated reason is for security,
Right.
so people who pose national interest threats. So for most people, that doesn't apply to them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these are people that have given so much to the U.S. in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And they've been law-abiding, good people, and so we like to be positive and say,
Yes.
look, it shouldn't affect you, hopefully, in the long term.
Yeah.
But it is causing this delay and this frantic and this
Yes.
anxiety, for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. When did these new restrictions start taking effect? And I think you said November.
Yes. So June 9th was the first first part of it, and the second part was December the 2nd. Correct.
Are you able to name the countries?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
I do have a list. I wish I had
I'm very
them by
interesting.
memory, but yes,
I'm interested to know.
All right. So for the full suspension, we're looking at Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Congo, Republic of Congo, Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. Okay, so those are the full suspension as of today. And then the partial is Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yes.
What kinds of visas or travel does this affect?
Okay. So for the full ban, we're talking about immigrant and non-immigrant visas. So some examples of non-immigrant visas, the visitor visa, that's widely known, right? That's completely stopped.
Yes.
J1 visas, which are for exchange individuals, right? A lot of medical professionals are here on J1 visas. We're talking about the E2 visas. Those are some kind of examples of those temporary visas that we were discussing just a few minutes ago.
Okay.
And then immigrant visas, family-based, employment-based, those are all stopped right now.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So who should be paying the closest attention to this news right now?
So obviously people abroad,
Yeah.
right? So people who are abroad, we're already getting a mass influx of calls, right? For existing clients and individuals who are, just wanting to know what to do.
Yes.
People who are planning, right? Either, planning to come soon or maybe already issued a visa but now temporarily stopped. So people who are abroad are obviously affected by this. And then with this new proclamation,
Yeah.
right, as of
Yeah.
December 2nd, individuals who are here,
Yes.
their applications are also stopped. And so, it's kind of everyone under the sun.
Yeah.
Also, people who are looking to sponsor their family members, unfortunately, they're also going to be affected. So even, U.S. citizens, green card holders, they're also being affected, especially when it comes to a family-based application, because those applications are stopped right now.
Oh, wow. So if someone from, example, Venezuela wants to apply for the family member, they are not able to do that.
So yes, in a sense, right?
Okay.
So individuals are here. For example, I'll give you a kind of a case in point. So
Yes.
someone entered lawfully on a non-immigrant visa, and then they married, for example, a U.S. citizen. That gives them the eligibility to apply for what we call adjustment of status, which means you're changing your status to a green card holder in the United States. You're avoiding consular processing. So let's say they filed the 485. We're seeing this a lot. Their green card application is stopped, or their interviews are being canceled immediately. I mean, we've gotten, I don't know, a number of notices of just canceled green card application interviews. So the applications are still pending, but the interviews are being canceled or being put on hold right now. So that's kind of an example.
Okay. Okay. So they're further investigating or whatever it is that they
Right,
need to do.
right.
Okay.
And we're waiting to see, how long is this going to take effect. Like I said, I mean, we're looking at about a 90-day timeline for this new list to be generated.
Okay.
And then those people will be re-interviewed, right? And hopefully the other individuals who are not really subject to this concern should be able to continue with their applications.
Okay.
That's what we're hoping.
Yeah. Okay. And then does this only affect people outside the U.S. or can it affect people already here too? Which you just kind of covered.
People here as well. Absolutely.
Okay. If someone is from an affected country and has a case pending, what's your general advice right now?
Okay, so don't abandon your case first and foremost. I think one of the themes of today's talk is going to be don't panic, right? Don't panic. Get knowledge about the process, get knowledge about your case. Get good legal advice, right? So if you have an attorney, great. Go with their advice. If you can't afford one, there's a lot of advocacy groups out there that are really working to help the immigrant communities, like Catholic Charities, for example. So contact them, right? Talk to people that know the laws, that know what to do, and seek advice from them, as opposed to kind of social media or the internet.
Yes, please don't listen to social media.
Please don't. Yes. So, so kind of don't panic, talk to the right people, and don't abandon your case, right? There's still hope, right? Again, it's just a pause. It's not an absolute denial. And so, and if there's a mechanism like a change of status that you might qualify for, then, pursue that.
I love that you said it's a pause. It's not a denial.
Right.
And I think that's very important for the listeners that are going through a similar situation to listen to, because when we hear or when there's no notice that's coming through, your automatic reaction is to panic. Like, oh my God, what's going on? Are they going to deny me? Because, I mean, our mind just keeps talking to us in that negative way, right? So, I love that you said that's pause. It's a pause. It's not a denial. So just stay calm.
One trend we are noticing, even before these proclamations, is kind of something called RFEs. It's a request for evidence.
Okay.
So historically, the government would issue these if they needed more evidence on a case. Usually if there's a gap or they needed additional information. There's also something called a notice of intent to deny, which is different than an
Okay.
RFE. That's essentially where the government is saying that they don't think that you're prima facie eligible for the benefit from what you've submitted. So they're intending to deny, but they're giving you an opportunity to respond, right?
Okay.
So historically, these were only issued, I mean, I would say they weren't as common. Now what we're noticing is RFEs are being issued on almost every single case. And so there's speculation that maybe there's some AI kind of system that the government is utilizing to just issue RFEs, perhaps to do more vetting.
Yeah.
But that is something that we are seeing. But, you know, as far as advice that I would give is, look, some people get an RFE and they'll call us and think, that's it, you know, game over. Oh, they're going to deny me.
Yeah.
No, that's not the case. We've responded to a number of RFEs and cases have been approved just as we anticipated they would be.
Okay.
So that's another piece of advice, you know, is that you're probably going to get correspondence from the government. Anybody applying right now should be ready for extra vetting for a longer process, you know.
Yeah.
So be patient. Kind of know this is a little bit of a longer process maybe than someone you knew a few years ago.
Yeah.
And that just because you get some kind of notice from the government alluding to additional information, for example, respond, don't abandon your case, and it might be a positive outcome.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
And this is me trying to be positive.
Okay. Okay, we're going to take a really quick break. When we get back, we will continue our topic. You are listening to 103.5 Hum FM here at Chai Time. Welcome back to Chai Time here on 103.5 Hum FM. For those of you that have just tuned in, we are in conversation with Lynn Alazem, and we are talking about year-end immigration update for 2025. I can't believe 2025 is almost done.
I know. I know.
We're like in December. This is crazy to me.
I don't know, Sasha. It's been a long year for us. So honestly, I don't know.
I bet. I can't even imagine. I mean, that's one career choice that I don't think I could handle. But yeah, it's crazy that we're already here in December. Yes. So before we went on break, we were going to actually talk about affirmative asylum pause.
Yeah.
So we're hearing that affirmative asylum decisions are paused. What does that actually mean for someone who has already filed?
Yeah. Okay. So we were talking a little bit before the break about the travel ban and the new memorandum that was issued on December the 2nd. And so one of the new kind of policies is that all affirmative applications for asylum are being put on hold. So not just the individuals from those 19 countries we had talked about, but anyone from any country who has filed an affirmative application. Their case is now being put on hold. So again, that means no decisions, no approvals, and no denials on those cases.
Okay, well that's good then.
It's good for some.
Positive.
Right. So for some people, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Right. And, you know, for others maybe who are at the final parts of their case and the thing is with the asylum process is it is a long process. Yeah. Very long. And so, and it's kind of what we were talking about earlier, a resource issue. Yeah. There's just not enough officers to handle the sheer volume of cases that are coming in. And so there are people that have filed their cases maybe 10 years ago, and they're still waiting on a case. They're still waiting on a decision.
Whole decade. Wow.
Yes, right. And it's hard because you're living in this state of limbo for so long, not knowing, right? And also you can't travel. You know, you can't leave the country. You're subjected to certain restrictions, work authorization, etc. So it's a tedious process. So for some people, it's a good thing, maybe strategically, and for others, it's definitely detrimental. So that's a big, change that we saw in the last memorandum.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So does a pause mean denials are happening, or is it more of a waiting game issue?
Still a waiting game. What we were talking about earlier. That's the theme. It's we're waiting. There's no denials, no approvals.
Okay.
People can still file though.
Okay.
So if you have a legitimate case, you're still encouraged to apply for asylum, especially considering if you have like a change of status issue or a falling out of status issue, then you should definitely apply if you have a legitimate fear. That's what asylum is, by the way.
Right.
It's a fear of a return, right?
Yeah.
So you can't go back to your country because if you did, you might be harmed either by the government itself, right?
Yeah.
Or by a non-government actor who the government is not willing to control. So pretty broad, right?
Yes.
And a lot of people have legitimate fears and they cannot return to their countries, and so they can still file.
Yeah.
Biometrics, which is essentially fingerprinting, is still being done.
Okay.
So people should still comply,
Yeah.
go to their appointments. That's another question we get a lot. You
Yeah.
know? Oh, I got a fingerprint appointment, and they're hearing about headlines where
Yes.
people are getting detained
Yes.
at their fingerprint appointments,
Yeah.
and it is happening. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
Okay.
It is happening.
Wow.
But it's usually people with issues. Usually.
Okay.
So some kind of negative immigration record,
Yeah.
maybe an arrest record. Even though if they don't have a conviction, anybody with an arrest record could be subjected to that.
Wow.
But people should still comply. So,
Yes.
they should still go to their appointments. They're still issuing that. Also benefits like work authorization.
Yeah.
You can still apply for those.
Oh.
And so we're still waiting on some direction as to whether USCIS is going to continue adjudicating them, considering the pause.
Yeah.
My impression is yes. So yes.
Yeah.
That was a mouthful, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm just thinking, like, those that are here in asylum, or those that are just here illegally but want some sort of status and is wanting, like, just their headspace, like what they must be feeling, just the worry, and then have kids that are also young kids, and just that, I don't know, like, just it must be so unsettling, like, just to be going through.
Absolutely. Yes. So another kind of real life situation we're seeing now, TPS. It's called temporary protected status. I don't know if you guys, have you heard of that before?
No, I have
okay.
not.
So it's essentially a type of temporary parole.
Okay.
For individuals from certain countries where their country conditions are really terrible. So the U.S. offers this. It's a beautiful humanitarian application. And so there's like a designated time to apply. During that time period, individuals from that country, even if they entered in a certain way, they're given benefits like work authorization. They can live here in peace, essentially.
Yeah.
And so it's for a certain period of time, right? And so for one case example is Syria, right? We represent a lot of Syrian nationals, and Syria had TPS designation since 2013 onwards. So we have people who have been living in the U.S., right, for 12 plus years, right? And I'm talking high professionals, medical residents, surgeons, engineers, entrepreneurs, business owners, people that are really contributing to our society who were under this temporary protected status. So in September, DHS Secretary Noem announced that they would be terminating it because the conditions of Syria were now safe because of the new regime change, and so people could go back. And so they gave them 60 days, right? 60 days to figure out what they were going to do. Either, arrange their affairs and leave back to a country that some of them entered as children. They don't know anything about that country. They may hold the passport and the nationality, but, they consider themselves American for all intents and purposes. And so why does this tie into asylum, right? A lot of TPS holders, they qualify for asylum, right? Because of the country conditions, right? So in the example of Syria, right, it was a political reason, right? Political fear of return. They maybe belong to a minority, for example, that don't feel safe. There's still some upheaval with minority groups there, religious minorities, etc. And so they're applying for asylum affirmatively, right, within this 60-day period. And now there's this kind of black cloud, this hold. And back to your point, right, they're so fearful.
Yeah.
Can I apply? Should I apply? Is someone going to come knock on my door because I did apply? Or is it better for me to do nothing?
Yeah.
And my response is no.
Yeah.
Because now you're going to be out of status.
Yeah.
So we know
that's one thing you don't want to do.
Never be out of status.
Yes.
Some practitioners might advocate for that and say better not to do anything. I totally disagree.
Yeah.
You want to always try to be lawful. An
Yes.
asylum is a lawful mechanism to, change your status in the U.S. If you're approved, you can get a green card. And it's a rigorous process, right? 10 plus years, multiple interviews.
Yeah.
But yeah, so people are, these are real people who have really, really contributed to our society, and they, from all sorts of life, all walks of life, and they're really scared. They're really scared.
Yeah.
So, but this is what we're seeing right now. So it's just kind of like a real case example of a situation we're seeing on the ground here.
I'm so happy we're talking about this. This is such an important topic.
Yeah, it is. It is. And so many people are affected by it. I mean,
Yes.
you might go to your pediatrician, right, and take your kid for their checkup. And that pediatrician might have this exact situation, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you might love your pediatrician and think, I really trust them to take care of my kid. And then all of a sudden, poof,
They're gone.
they're gone.
Yeah.
So it affects us in all different ways and
Absolutely.
aspects. So, really important topic.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does this affect work permits and renewals for the asylum
Right.
applicants?
Right. So employment authorization, right?
Yeah.
And let's kind of back it up, give some information on it. So
Yeah.
when you apply for asylum, and other visas and applications have the same kind of mechanism, different rules, but for asylum specifically, affirmative asylums, when you file, if it's a legitimate application, right, and none of the exceptions apply to you, within 150 days, you can apply for a work authorization after you filed, right?
Okay.
And then within 180 days, you become eligible to receive work authorization, right?
Okay.
And so as of now, you can still apply for work authorization. I'm under the impression that they're going to be delayed as far as decisions.
Okay.
So because of this new directive.
Correct.
So people are probably going to maybe lose their jobs. We're seeing that because employers, they have to comply. It's
Yeah.
called I-9 compliance. They need to be able to validate that an individual has work authorization.
Yes.
A receipt notice or a pending work authorization is not going to be sufficient.
Yeah.
But we're under the impression that it will still continue. So despite this pause.
Okay. Okay. And what do you tell families to help them handle the uncertainty without making risky decisions?
So focus on the controllables, right?
Yeah.
You can't control everything, right? You can't control these new memorandums and policies that are coming out, these executive orders. You can't control Supreme Court decisions, right? Well, I guess you can file litigation, so maybe,
Yes.
but you can. There are things that you can control,
Yeah.
right? So, be organized. Keep paperwork on you. Make sure you know your history.
Yes.
You'd be surprised by the number of people, unfortunately, that don't know what happened in their immigration history, or they just had bad representation or no representation. So, be organized, know your paper trail, know what you've done and filed, and, keep control of the situation. That's the best advice we're giving everyone right now. It's kind of turbulent, but we're managing.
Okay. Well, I do have a question for
Yeah.
you. So those that are that do have legal status, but so what I hear is that if you look a certain way, you're being targeted, right? So if they do have they do have status in this country, what do you suggest them carrying their citizenship paperwork or their green card or
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So even if you're a green card holder,
Yeah.
right, have it on you always. Because if an officer they have reasonable cause to believe or inquire about your status, you need to be able to produce, the burden's on you, right, to be able to prove you are who you are, identification-wise. And we've seen this happen where actually U.S. citizens, not to scare anyone, but U.S. citizens being detained for a day or so because an officer might believe them to be somebody else. And they'll say, oh, I don't have my, I am who I am. I'm a citizen, for example. I was born, in Texas. But they're not able to kind of substantiate that. And then they're undergoing detention.
They don't get any time to
Provide.
paperwork.
Well, right now it's really up to the officer. There's a lot of discretion. And so sometimes, and a lot of these officers are good people, don't get
Right.
me wrong,
Yes.
they're human, they're good people. But a lot of times they're being held temporarily until they're able to produce that documentation.
So a driver's license would not be enough.
It's not enough, in my opinion. I think that you need more. So I tell everyone, you don't have to take the original, but
Have a
keep,
copy.
I
yeah,
was gonna
keep,
ask, like,
exactly.
is a photocopy or even a picture now?
Picture's fine. Yeah, picture's fine. If you have a physical copy on you, even better. But yeah, receipt notices, even showing that something is pending, can be helpful, right? I know it's kind of tedious, maybe having a folder in your car, but it's worth it, right? When you, God forbid, come into that encounter, you want to
Yes.
be able to avoid a detention, and it does happen.
Yeah.
So definitely keep any copy you can. Paperwork should be on you. Even receipt notices should be on you at all times.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
So naturalization updates. We're hearing citizenship rules got tougher this year. In plain English, what actually changed?
Yes. Okay. So yes. So naturalization did get tougher. First and foremost, so there's a civics test. Everyone has to take, unless you apply, unless you qualify for an exemption. You have to prove that.
So sorry, I'm
Yes.
gonna backtrack.
Tell me.
What qualifies you for an exemption?
Okay, so medical, right? So if
Okay.
you have some kind of medical issue
Okay.
where you're not able to take the exam,
Okay.
and that has to be certified. There's a special form that you submit to immigration.
Okay.
It has to be filled by a physician.
Okay.
And then they have to validate it, and then they approve you for the exemption. Sometimes you're not approved for it, but
Okay.
you can try, absolutely. So that's one exemption. Individuals who are of a certain age and also have been green card holders for a certain number of years, for example,
Okay.
they may be exempt as well from taking the exam.
Okay.
But we are hearing rumors, that they may eliminate some of these exemptions and require more people to take the civics exam. But as of today, those are still in place.
Okay.
Yeah, those are still in place. So the civics exam is essentially your knowledge of American history. There's a understanding that if you are seeking to become a U.S. citizen, you need to know the history of our country, which that's reasonable.
Yeah.
And so previously it was there was a bank of 100 questions, pretty basic questions in my
We used
opinion.
to have a booklet, I remember.
Yeah, a booklet, exactly. So now the questions have expanded. I think now the bank is 128, and you were required to get 6 out of 10 questions correct. Now I believe it is 12 out of 20 questions that you need to get correct. Yes. And my understanding is that if you fail once, you can have a re-interview, a second opportunity to take the exam. And then if you're still not able to pass, then you will be required to reapply again.
Oh, wow.
So that's changed, number one. So the civics requirement now. Then, so the good moral character requirement. So what does that mean? When you apply for citizenship, in addition to the civics, you have to be a person of good moral character. So
How's that distinguished?
so yes, so good moral character, number one is criminal history, right? So usually they're looking at the 5 years preceding the application filing.
Okay.
But now we're seeing an expanded definition and application of the good moral character requirement. So, and even previous to this administration, an officer could look at a criminal background from previous to the 5 years if it's some kind of egregious crime. We're talking about like aggravated felonies, multiple DUIs, child endangerment, things that are kind of tell something about your character.
Yeah.
Previously, though, you could also kind of show evidence to demonstrate that you've been rehabilitated. So you're someone who maybe you had one mishap in your life, but you've kind of rehabilitated yourself. You've given back. You've not committed any other crimes. So now there is a expanded kind of view of the good moral character, and they're looking at kind of a totality of circumstances. Again, discretionary. So, but back to your question, what does this mean in real life? You know, what we're telling people is criminal history, number one. Child support, for example, you know, if you have outstanding child support payments, that's going to be a big negative. Taxes. So, you know, have you filed your taxes continuously? And if not, are you in some kind of payment plan with the IRS where you're essentially taking care of it?
Yeah.
Also, there's anti-Americanism. That's a kind of a new thing. So social media is being reviewed by officers.
Oh, your personal social media.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
wow.
So people who have expressed anti-American viewpoints, and there's a lot of debate on this topic. So again, what does that mean, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the benchmark here?
Yeah.
Is it expressing something against, the commander in chief, for example, saying something negative? Is that anti-American? Is it being against a war that's happening, for example, or it's up there. So it's very broad.
Yeah.
And this is happening both in the naturalization setting. They're kind of under the good moral character aspect, security concerns, but also in the State Department and Border Patrol. That's something that we've been seeing kind of. I'm going on a tangent here. I hope you don't mind.
Please,
That's
go
okay.
ahead.
Okay.
This is interesting.
Okay. But people who are re-entering the U.S. or here on a temporary visa or green card holders, and CBP, which is the kind of the border enforcers and the people who allow entry to the U.S. And exit. And so their people's cell phones are being taken. And I've heard, I personally haven't had a client who's had their emails looked into, but I have heard from some friends who are also practitioners, for example, their text messages. Why are you talking about marriage with somebody, for example?
It's nothing personal anymore. Like your personal information is not personal.
Exactly. So, I'm telling everyone right now, be prepared. So if you do have to travel, and sometimes you can't avoid it, right? You have to consular process, meaning you have to leave to renew your visa at a consular post as opposed to inside the U.S. So when you're seeking readmission, you have to be ready for that. Yeah. I did have somebody actually who their social media accounts were not on public, which is interesting because it's kind of a personal choice, right? If you want to have your social media,
Excuse me. Yeah.
bless you, public or private,
Yeah.
they had their settings on private, and that caused their visa to be delayed 1 month. Their field, of course, with confidentiality here in mind, they needed to come back for a very critical reason, right? They worked for an area that we needed them to come back essentially, and so their whole visa was delayed for a month at the consular post. Yes, because their social media wasn't made public. So this is something happening. It's real. It's not speculation, and it's definitely happening in the naturalization setting. So just some food for thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. My mind is just.
I know. You kind of just sit around, think, where does it stop? That's the question. What are the boundaries?
Yes.
And is that an American value, right? Because we value free speech. We're a democratic nation. Freedom of association, freedom to criticize.
Yeah.
So is it? It's a question to think about and ponder. Yeah.
Yeah. Most definitely. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So aside from the test, are you seeing USCIS review cases differently in 2025?
I think they are.
Yeah.
Yes. So they
covered that. Yeah.
They are. They are looking at issuing RFEs. Remember, we
Yes.
talked about that a little bit ago before the break. I think.
Yeah.
RFEs are being issued. If someone had a traffic incident, that's maybe they're. Previously, we would have told an individual that's okay.
Yeah.
One traffic incident shouldn't be a problem.
Correct.
Now it might be. So there's more scrutiny for sure. Naturalization in every application, they're being reviewed with a magnifying scope. So be prepared for that. Yeah.
Okay. What's your number? Oh wait, what kinds of issues are getting more scrutiny under good moral character?
Okay, so one thing we didn't talk about actually just a moment ago is long trips. I have to talk about this because I cannot tell you guys the number of times I've seen this issue for something that could have been avoided, right? I guess another tip, if you can avoid it, avoid it.
Okay.
So you have green card holders that are going abroad, maybe going back to their home country, understandably.
Yes.
And, maybe they're elderly, they have a second home.
Yeah.
and they're spending a great amount of time there.
What's
So-
a great amount of time?
Okay, so typically anything above 6 months
Above 6
is a problem. Okay, it's called abandonment of residency. So if you spend more than 1 year, then you have been deemed to have abandoned your residency. And you have to go through this mechanism of applying for a special type of visa to re-enter and to overcome that. For some people, they actually will, let's say hypothetical, person A goes to their country, they spend 1 year or more, sometimes 2, 3.
Yeah.
And they think it won't be a problem. They come back at the border, and then they're issued something called an NTA. That's called a notice to appear, which means that you are now subject to an immigration judge, and you're being put in removal proceedings. And you have a chance to argue that you never, kind of defense. Now you're in defense mode. That no, I didn't abandon my residency. I still, maintained my ties to the U.S. and I shouldn't have stayed that long, but I did, and I'm still a green card holder.
Yeah.
For all intensive purposes. And so you have to kind of overcome it through, or there was some kind of emergency mechanism, maybe usually medical. Sometimes, unfortunately, things happen. People, they undergo surgery. Something happens and they have to remain there longer for an exception. So, but you want to avoid that because it's a huge headache and you don't want to be in defense, right? You always want to be in offense. And so, so this is something that we're seeing a lot. Long trips abroad is an issue. If, calculate the number of days that you're leaving, I usually recommend no more than 90 days. Even though 180 days is kind of that threshold. Yeah. 90 days is safe. You can go and come back. There's nothing that prohibits you from doing that. We also advise people to maintain as much ties to the U.S. as they can. So what does that mean? Home, right? If you own a home or you're leasing, keep that going. If you're a student or in school, for example, your school records, your children's school records, for example, bills, utility, cell phones. Those are all things that might be useful later to just show that you've maintained your ties to the United States.
That's interesting.
So that's being reviewed now. Really, they're really honing in on every aspect of the application. And in addition to what we talked about previously, so criminal history, that's really, really being looked into. Any crime is problematic right now. But again, there's a way to overcome it without me being overly negative. Right? I mean, I hope I'm not coming off that way.
No, not at all.
There's always a way to try to overcome it. Again, these officers, I know a lot of them personally, and they're good, reasonable people.
Yeah.
And so, if you can prove that you've rehabilitated yourself, it was a one-time mistake, maybe you didn't injure anybody, you didn't harm anyone, there's a way to overcome it. So stay positive.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. So what's your number one tip for someone applying for citizenship right now?
Okay. I think first off, know if it's a good time to apply.
Okay.
So there's no law or rule that says you have to apply within a certain number of years, right? And we were talking about this before.
Yes.
Some people have been green card holders for 20 plus years.
Yes.
And they're perfectly fine being green card holders. So know if it's a good time, because if you apply for naturalization, you are going to be under the lens. And so something about your history that maybe wasn't so great is going to be reviewed. So just because you can naturalize, maybe it's not a good time right now. So it's okay to put it off, right? You can still go and come on your green card, right? So that's point number one. Two, be organized, be prepared, know what the requirements are. And so, going back to criminal records, for example, a lot of people had maybe committed an incident in the 90s or, at a point where a long time ago. And those records are really, really, you cannot imagine how hard it is in some municipalities to get those records. Because they don't exist, for example, or the court has shifted into an electronic system. And so essentially keep your files organized when you're applying. Okay. You need to be able to show proof of everything. Your taxes, your filings, if you've owned businesses, things like that. So be prepared, keep your documentation, know what the rules and regulations are, and hopefully you should be okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we've also heard about birthright citizenship in the news. Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah.
Is this something? Is it the same thing as naturalization?
Okay. No.
No.
No. Very good question. So, all right. So, birthright citizenship is essentially citizenship. You're a U.S. citizen at the moment of birth.
Correct.
It's a territorial thing. So you're in physical boundaries of the U.S. You are born here, regardless of your parents' status.
Yeah.
You are a U.S. citizen by birth. Naturalization is the process to become a U.S. citizen after being a green card holder, and for a certain number of years. Married to a U.S. citizen, 3 years, otherwise 5 years.
Right.
And so right now, birthright citizenship is a hot topic.
Yeah.
Because one of the first things that President Trump did when he took office was to issue an order
Yes.
taking away birthright citizenship, right? And so this is it's a constitutional question.
Yes.
You know, you can't just issue an order for a right that's embedded right in the Constitution. And so there was immediately litigation, federal litigation. But the newest development is the Supreme Court actually just recently announced that they're going to review it.
Okay.
And it's going to be a constitutional question, most likely. So they're going to assess whether this administration has the constitutional right,
Right.
based on the executive branch, right, checks and balances, right? Can they do this?
Okay.
So we're waiting to see. I mean, it's definitely a hot topic right now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, every time I open the news, this is the first thing that I'm listening to. I'm like, oh, I'm so interested. I want to know
Right.
what's going on.
Right. And a lot of people are worried and scared.
Yes,
And they'll say,
absolutely.
oh, you know, what's going to happen to my children?
Yeah.
Who are now, adults, for example.
So now correct me if I'm wrong. So what I hear is that if you are the parent and you do not have or do not have citizenship and your child is born in the United States, then their citizenship can be revoked or taken away. Or they're not a citizen or considered a citizen.
Right.
Or is that true? Or is it if you are a citizen now, and if you are a citizen and you have a child, a naturalized citizen, and then you have a child in this country, then they are considered citizen as well as you.
Yeah, I think the issue is the nationality of the parents
Okay.
at the time of birth, right?
Okay.
And it's I think the term is the anchor babies is what they're calling them.
Right,
Essentially, people who come into the U.S., they birth the children,
Okay.
or they're here, they entered illegally, for example.
Yeah.
Or came in on a visitor visa, had the children, and now they retain. So not so much for naturalized citizens, right,
Okay.
who had children,
Okay.
but more so people who didn't have status and then birthed children here.
Okay.
So that's kind of the
What
issue.
it applies to.
What it
or
applies to.
If it was to go into effect.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. And again, it's a constitutional question.
Correct, yeah.
So. Yeah, but there's a lot of ruckus about it. People are worried and scared.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm sure. Yeah.
But as of right now, that's on hold.
Right.
Thanks to our federal courts. So that's something to also mention is that there's a lot of power that the federal courts hold, right? And one of the beautiful things about our country is the system of checks and balances, where if one agency is doing something that maybe is out of boundaries, then you have another branch who can kind of come in and say, this is not right.
Yeah.
And the federal courts have been exceptionally active in this last year.
Yeah.
And there's a number of mechanisms, not to get too, in the legalese here, but there's a number of mechanisms that individuals themselves can kind of apply to protect themselves. So definitely a hot topic, naturalization
Yeah.
and birthright.
Awesome. And then ICE. Oh no, we're out of time.
Oh,
I was just getting into this.
Oh no.
Well, we have to have this conversation again.
Yes.
Lynn, thank you so much. I
Oh.
mean, you have shared some great information with us. I really appreciate you being on the show. We definitely have to have you back. We definitely
I
have
would
to have
love
this
to.
cover this topic once
Yes,
again.
yes.
And
End of year, we need to do the
Yes.
Beginning of the yes,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yes, we didn't get to talk about ICE enforcement.
I know.
For the listeners, we'll do it.
We have to.
Yes.
We have to. This is
Yes.
definitely important. So thank you again,
Thank
Lynn,
you for
coming.
having us. Thank you for having me today, and always a pleasure with you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, listeners, for listening to us here on 103.5 Hum FM. signing out. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Bye.